There have been numerous fan fictions, discussions, and general yearnings for a female main character in Yu-Gi-Oh! This video will not dabble into the discussion of whether it's possible or not. Instead, I'll simply talk about how the implementation could be possible by listing out various approaches. And let me clarify, this doesn't necessarily mean this female character has to be the main character, very, like Yusaku, Yusei, or Yugi. No, instead, I'm just going to ensure that they're in the forefront of the main cast and ensure there is enough room for her to make an impact. Similar to Akiza, but even more focal to the overarching story. With that being said, I must say, it's time to discuss a female main rival. So we've had various rivals and various complexions of rivals, be it the younger guy or the millionaire. How about we have an antagonizing female, and not in the sense that she's a villain, that's probably another slot or another video later. Instead, you know how Kaiba ended up becoming a rival, a mutual respect between the two, whereby they both have respect for each other's skills and they always duke it out to be the best. So one of the best examples I can give is actually between Jaden and Chaz, whereby although Chaz Princeton was the little, he was the prince, he was the go-to guy in terms of dueling from the blue dorm, although we know that Zane was ideally the main dark horse, but we could tell that Chaz was this contender between the two. And if you look at Arc 5, I don't want this girl to be similar to Sawatori, who ended up becoming a joke essentially. What I do want them to become is either a Revolver-esque, a Kaiba-esque, or heck, even a Jack Atlas-esque kind of character. Now with that, you need a sense of a imposing aura to you, whereby when she's present on the screen, you know, oh crap, okay, she means business, or we need her to be a very credible threat, a credible duelist. Now, you know, we had Aoi Zaizen, who was a great duelist in her own right. However, they didn't capitalize with that, and instead she became a side character. She was a forgettable character. It would be nice for this character to be the main character's best friend. Now, if we are gonna discount the fact that she won't be the main character, since I don't want to dabble too much into the reasons, but long story short, it's a shonen. They're gonna try to go with a young boy rather than a young girl. That's what sells. There's videos on it, please check them out. But if she was the main character's best friend, and very similar to how you have the trifecta that was in Vrains, although they're not best friends, but they were three initially main characters, whereby you had Yusaku, you had Blue Angel, and you had Go Onizuka, where even though they're not friends, they were the main three from the good side. I want her to be number two, like the second in command, or just whereby she has a major impact and her words have a lot of weight in terms of how it swings the main character with his decisions. I want her to be credible. I want her to mean something, and for her to really mean something, she needs to mean something to the characters within the universe that she's written in. Before we can care about her, they need to care about her as well. They need to take her seriously. So if she's like the best friend and her main character, best friend, isn't taking her seriously, how on earth can we take her seriously? Another way for her to be taken seriously by the main character is if she's the main character's lover. Now, this is unlikely. Simply because Yu-Gi-Oh! Doesn't do love stories. They don't really write couples well. They don't write couples at all, to be honest, like properly. So it's a thought, but I don't think it's going to happen, simply because of the fact that a lot of the main characters have ranged from the ages of 13 to 17 or so, and from when they were first introduced. And due to that, they don't want to focus on the whole high school romance or just romance in general. They want to focus on saving the world with a card game, I guess. So instead of that, and this is my favorite one, why isn't she a legacy character's heir? Now, what do I mean by that? She could be Yugi's daughter. So as you can see from the thumbnail, she could easily be written as, oh, okay, she is the daughter of the famous king of games, Yugi, thus making her the princess of games, the queen of games. And the way you do that is you make sure you choose which canon you want to follow, or you make your own canon. You make your timeline very apparent. By doing this, you kind of have to stick rigidly or somewhat rigidly to a canon. So we tend to say that the first 3 Yu-Gi-Oh seasons are they're in line with each other. They follow a similar path, a linear path in the timeline before it divulges into who knows how. Maybe that's a video for another day, but we know that they kind of stick linear to it. And when we went to Zexal Arc 5 and Reigns, it went all over the place. This new series, Yu-Gi-Oh! 7, as of this recording, we don't have the name yet, but the 7th installment of Yu-Gi-Oh! Or heck, if it doesn't happen in the 7th series, make it the 8th series, is when that timeline becomes more linear again. And by introducing her as, let's say, the queen of games, the princess of games, the daughter of Yugi, whereby she has a burden to bear. She's trying her best to live up to the standards that her father was held up to. If she's not Yugi's heir, if she's not Yugi, okay, she doesn't need to be the daughter, she could be the heir. She could be someone which Yugi handpicked and said, you know what, this girl, you can have my Millennium Puzzle, or I am giving you my blessing to be the next king of games, the next best in the world. And she could then be something where the main character that has been written needs to aspire to. She's the first hurdle or the last hurdle or the main hurdle to kind of overcome, to determine that this main character of whichever story, whichever season that she's introduced into, needs to overcome to prove that he is the best, or they are the best, or she is the best, if they do give us a female main character. And I think it will be a good story. It's a way to reel back in and rope in the older fans, the fans who've kind of fell off. I swear, the amount of times I speak about Yu-Gi-Oh! And they're like, hey, the last time I watched Yu-Gi-Oh! was GX. I don't like when they went on the motorbikes. So it gets those fans back, or it kind of gives them an opportunity or a reason to tune in and say, oh, okay. And if she's not Yugi's heir, she could be Kaiba's heir, because as far as we know from Dark Side of Dimensions, Kaiba died, or Kaiba is just not in the current dimension, and that could be a story to move forward. What if, you know what, I don't want to dabble into the many what ifs, but the heir of Kaiba, the heir of Yugi, heck, the long lost illegitimate daughter of Pegasus, that'll be fun, don't you reckon? Now, another way to get a legacy character involved into the story is rebooting that legacy character. What do I mean by that? Well, Arc 5 somewhat did it in terms of they introduced various characters from GX and 5Ds into their story, and they said they're another counterpart, so they're from another dimension, so they're not part of our canon per se, or are they? Who knows? But we had Crow Hogan, and that's just one example. But instead of actually getting a counterpart to a previously introduced and established legacy character, why don't we go the Dragon Ball Super route, whereby, and it's funny because they kind of went back on this, but we can introduce a character which is very similar and very obviously the homage of a previous fan favorite. In Dragon Ball Super, they done it with Kale, who was an homage, who had the characteristics of Broly. Now, of course, Broly got his own movie, but we could do something similar to a female version of an older character. So, as I said, a female version of Yugi, like a female reincarnation. You know, as fans, it's obvious what they're trying to do, but in the universe, they're not gonna say it. They're gonna hold back on the trigger to say, oh, this is female Yugi. Or, oh, you look like Kaiba with long hair. Oh, you look like I don't know, Mokuba. Yeah. The point being is that it's a way to reintroduce the characteristics of a beloved character. My suggestion would have been to have a female incarnation of Jaden. I think Jaden is probably one of the most underrated main characters, so having a female version reminds us and it reminds us to appreciate Jaden, whilst also having a new fleshed out character with their own backstory, lore, and future to really explore. That rhymes. Thank you very much. And finally, one thing I would really like is a final and main female villain. Now, I kind of touched on this earlier, but no, we need a proper villain. We need a proper villain. If she's to be female, it would be great. We had that with Queen in Frames. It was promising at first, only for them to truly drop the ball. It really was shit. I think they could have done better, and they should have done way better. They need to kind of establish this female main villain and follow through. They can't hold back. They can't, I was about to swear, they can't really wimp out. They need to follow it through to the end. You need to believe in your audience and really see that we don't really give a crap if it's a guy, girl. We just want to be able to hate them. We just want to root behind the main character and ensure that they're beaten. Another example I can give was when we were initially introduced to Reiji's mother. I thought, okay, she must be a villain. She must be the main villain. She must be bad. She wasn't, unfortunately. So I think we should do a double turn. Introduce us to a female who seems to be like a good ally, an elder ally, only for her to be the final villain. Let her get corrupted. Let her become all weird and tentacly and veiny. If you want, I don't care. Just that's one way to have a final and main villain who is also happens to be a bloody female. So with that being said, these are around 7 or so bits and bobs for me to list out on how to utilize a female character in a Yu-Gi-Oh series, in a Yu-Gi-Oh season, be it Yu-Gi-Oh 7, 8, 9, 10, who cares? What are your thoughts? Tell me down below, and click for other Yu-Gi-Oh videos, One Piece videos. Now, it's been a hot minute. I know I've been somewhat gone. Maybe I'll explain it another day. I don't think you guys really care. Please make sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe. You may now exit Dimsy's domain. Thank you. Goodbye. Take care. Don't die.